Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and it's been a while, man. I've been on break. It's been about 2 weeks since my last live stream, and you know what? What better time to come on than after the news of a blockbuster trade taking place? You guys probably all know by now, but Shams just reported that the Phoenix Suns are trading a two-time NBA Finals MVP Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets in exchange for the services of Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, a rather deep draft, and 5 second-round picks. Now, this trade within itself, when you're just looking at it on both sides, you're going to see opinions being thrown around left and right about who won this trade, or if it was a good trade for one team or the other, or if it was good for both of them. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's terrible. I mean, you're talking about a 37-year-old KD, a guy that frankly probably doesn't have too many years left and had a small market due to the contract that he's on right now. He's making a ton of money, a shitload of money. So I think this is a solid return for him. You get back Jalen Green, who was more than likely to be rerouted. I mean, because you look at their cap table over there in Phoenix. They got Bradley Beal. Oh my God. That just remains a terrible contract. Guys, Bradley Beal is going to make about $53 million. Holy shit. He's going to make about $53.6 million for the 2025-26 season. You got Devin Booker under contract for $53 million as well. So no cap, you got $106 million or so tied up in just your backcourt of Beal and Booker. You add in Jalen Green there, who's making $33.3 million. And then Dillon Brooks is the other major piece that is being brought in alongside Jalen Green as well, in addition to those picks. The picks are important. Those are probably the most important part of this trade in regards to the Phoenix of it all. But holy hell, that's nearly $140 million tied into 3 players. Somebody's going to be moved, and that is more than likely to be Jalen Green. You're going to have to reroute him at this point, because there's no way in hell the team is going to enter the season with just that much money tied up into those 3 players. Dillon Brooks is making 21+ million. You still got Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal under contract as well. So there's a lot of money still on those books over there in Phoenix. And you would have to think that they're not knee deep into like a total rebuild right now. I don't think that's the direction that they're planning on going in with Devin Booker and Beal under contract right now, because you're just going to have to ride it out with Beal until either one of two things happens. Either he declines his player option for the 2026-27 season when he's due to make $57 million, which there's no way in hell you can bet your ass there he's not declining that option, or he becomes an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2027-28. Yeah. So unless they feel like they're going to figure out something with Beal, or they're going to go ahead and pivot entirely and move up off of Booker, the only recourse here is to reroute Jalen Green. That to me, this trade for that matter, that's why the players just don't matter in this circumstance in regards to Phoenix, because Brooks, he might stay put, but Green, he's gone. So this really boils down to, if you're Phoenix, those picks in a rather deep draft right now, that 10th pick is important. And then those 5 second rounders that they were able to recoup, that is also very important for them, because their cupboard in regards to assets just was non-existent. I mean, you're talking about basically no draft capital at all over there. Just did not have anything truly to work with. So that that's important. That is rather important for them to be able to have something in-house. And I think this is where it starts, right? You start selling off some of these pieces, and I think Green could probably be moved for more picks, which is probably going to be the name of the game for them there. On the Houston side of things, adding Kevin Durant for the cost of picks, which Houston may or may not covet as much because they feel like their window is opening after being the second seeded team in the West this past season. Yeah, I mean, getting up off of the contract of Green and Dillon Brooks for KD essentially, that positions them into a place where they may feel confident in competing for it all. Taking on the Minnesotas and the Dallases and the Oklahoma City Thunders of the world. We'll have to see what happens with that, but I think that this definitely is something that makes them slightly better. I really, and I throw that word around lightly because you never really know with aging players. And KD, he's going to have to pick up a lot of zone, and they're going to have to. And KD is by no means a terrible defender, but he just doesn't move the same as he once did. That length that he has still bothersome, obviously, but Houston is more than likely going to have to go to the zone even more now. And Katie is going to have to be a big proponent in that. So we'll have to see how that all works out. But this just brings to mind, because there were reports out there. This is the purpose of hopping on this live stream today. There were reports that Cleveland was among one of the wild card teams in the mix for Kevin Durant. Now, how much of that is, believable? How much stock you want to put into that is completely up to you. But the wording is as follows. The Suns engaged in serious talks to move Durant this week, primarily focused on the Heat, the Rockets, and Timberwolves, sources said. Several other wild card suitors emerged as well, including the Toronto Raptors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the LA Clippers, and the Denver Nuggets. But with Durant on an expiring $54.7 million contract and eligible for a new 2-year extension after trade, the league's market for him clearly showed his ability to dictate whether he wanted to play for a franchise long term. Essentially, what this boils down to is, would Cleveland have been comfortable selling the farm or trading valuable valuable players for maybe 1 year? Maybe 1 year of the Kevin Durant experience. That to me is what it boiled down to. I think it probably would have been foolhardy. It would have been foolish. It would have been foolish to go that route if you're Cleveland, depending upon what the cost was. Again, you look at KD's contract. You look at his contract right now. Look what he is going to be eligible to make in the years that follow. I don't think that would have been the best move. I'm glad from a cap standpoint, second acre standpoint, it's basically impossible anyways without restructuring a lot of things. But at $54 million and with him being an unrestricted free agent for the 2026-27 season, this is something that the Cavaliers never should have been tied to in the first place, in my opinion. Now, getting in that trade as a 3-teamer, something that we have seen a lot of times with some of these bigger names, that is certainly something that Cleveland probably could have tried to get in and done, especially with Houston. Maybe you go in and try and snag somebody on the back end of their rotation. Maybe you try and lump Jarrett Allen in somewhere, or Okoro, who they are trying to dump for salary purposes, or Dean Wade. I don't know. The point being that the only context that I would have been okay with hopping into a potential Kevin Durant trade would have been as if they were just trying to act as a facilitator, as that third team to try and snag some piece, whether that be it's Atari Eason or somebody like that out there. That is the only way in which I believe Cleveland should have been involved in this capacity in this trade at any capacity. That's just where I am at with that. But for Cleveland to be connected, it's some form or fashion. You just never really know how interested they actually were, how deep that interest actually ran. So maybe we'll never know, but it was very, very interesting to see that. And it brings to mind the question, with some of these moves being made, right? We've seen Desmond Bane being moved to the Orlando Magic. We've seen Kevin Durant now being traded to the Houston Rockets. And you constantly have fans clamoring for Cleveland to do something, whether that be to trade Jarrett Allen for pieces, whether that be to trade Darius Garland for pieces, or to get some type of value back for Isaac Okoro or Dean Wade. It brings to mind the question, are the Cavaliers ready and willing to go all in for this upcoming 2025-26 season? Clearly, if their name was involved in some capacity in this Durant trade, maybe there's some semblance of smoke where that fire is. But as currently constructed, I still do not see them making that big push for a player out there that they deem worthy enough to move Jarrett Allen or Darius Garland for this offseason. Now, I'm not going to say that is not going to happen, because you never should say never. You should always try to be improving, always try and keep an open line of communication with some of these teams out here who you may have a player, you may have a player on the roster that you're interested in bringing in. But just because a team makes a move doesn't necessarily mean the Cavaliers have to try and keep up with the proverbial Joneses and make a move themselves. It has to make sense. There are definitely moves out there that I will make. Hell, Jarrett Allen if you get me Jarrett Allen in exchange for Herb Jones and Eve Missy, something like that, I'm doing that deal all day long. And I know that's a deal that everybody has talked about. It's tougher for Darius Garland unless you're getting like an elite wing back and a serviceable point guard in some other some additional move, or within that trade itself. It makes little sense to move up off of Darius Garland right now. So stuff like that is very, very hard to forecast. So for anybody out there hoping that, we've seen Houston make a move now, we've seen Orlando make a move now in the Eastern Conference and only look to possibly get better, what is Cleveland going to do in response to that? And I think that response is what we're all curious to see what plays out. Because as of right now, I think the most likely scenario is that this team, they bring the core back and maybe they move Isaac Okoro. And that's very hard to forecast or forecast as well, because it appears right now that Isaac just doesn't have a large market. You look at what he's due to make next season, which is about $11 million. There are talks out there that they are going to have to attach draft capital just to get up off of his contract. And it's also being said that Dean Wade might be moved a little more easier. But the question is, what are you going to get back in exchange for Dean that is going to move the needle? If the conversation is simply about getting off of this salary and trying to duck some of the tax implications that can be had, there's definitely validity behind that. And I think that you should probably look to move Dean or Isaac to do so. You guys know I've been a heavy proponent of trying to get Lonzo Ball in exchange for the services of Isaac Okoro, something along the lines of that. Or if you could move him for a Jonas Valanciunas. Yeah, those are the types of deals that Cleveland is probably looking at. But the problem is, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of interest right now in Isaac Okoro. It doesn't look like a lot of other teams are really interested in taking on Isaac Okoro, though he's still young, has some upside, in my opinion, and probably could do more in an expanded role on a lottery-bound team. This is where we're at right now. If you're expecting a Kevin Durant level move that involves Darius or Jarrett, I got news for you. I just don't think that's happening. So the real question here is, how do you improve along the margins? Is Ty Jerome going to be re-signed, or are you going to try to circumvent that by bringing in a point guard on a better minimum contract like a Malcolm Brogdon? Are you going to give Craig Porter Jr. the keys next season and just say, hey, fuck it, we're going to see what we got in some of this young in-house talent on the roster? There are a couple of different directions that they can take, but the problem here is that they just don't have a lot of avenues to do that. And when you don't have a lot of avenues, the first question obviously is, okay, who are you going to move to create some of those avenues, to create some of that additional create some of that additional assets in-house or to relieve yourself of some salary concerns or restrictions. It's tough. Very, very tough. And so there are very few moves out there that I just say, okay, you know what, push all the chips in, because you can argue that this regime's all-in move was Donovan Mitchell. You can argue that that was the case with the Donovan and Mitchell trade. You can argue that they have done little things here and there to try and, you know, make themselves or give themselves a better chance at competing for a title. You can argue that the DeAndre Hunter deal that was that came from moving Karis LeVert and George Niang and a second round pick. You can argue that that was another all-in move right there. For better or worse, what I'm saying is this is probably the team for the most part that we are looking at. I think the bulk of the playoff rotation from last season is due to return with a couple of tweaks on the back end, and hopefully some of the younger guys on the roster that we really want to see, whether that be Jalen Tyson. I don't care what happens next season during the regular season. Jalen Tyson has got to be involved in a bigger capacity. Craig Porter Jr., it kind of feels like a now or never situation for him in terms of, okay, do the Cavaliers believe that he could be the backup point guard of the future? But that is contingent completely on what they decide to do with Ty Jerome. Sam Merrill, to me, I'm just going to say this. I think Sam Merrill's gone. And I think that replacing him is not necessarily going to be easy. But I think it's going to be something. And yes, I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me in what I've just said, but Sam is quite a productive player for the contract that he was on. You're not going to be able to replace that rather easily on a veteran minimum. You're just not. You're going to be throwing a dart. You're going to be throwing darts at the veteran free agent market because we're already seeing, oh, this guy's picking up their player option, or this guy is valued at such and such that exceeds what Cleveland could potentially offer in free agency. It's going to be a dartboard. You're going to be taking chances. You're going to be hopefully relying on some of that younger talent on the roster, whether that be Tyson or Naquan Tomlin or Emoni Bates, who a lot of people are still huge believers in. And I myself, I do believe in the long-term potential of Emoni Bates, but he shouldn't be anywhere near the regular season or playoff rotation as currently constructed. There are other names, right? Whether that be one of the picks that you may or may not have, because who knows if Cleveland keeps both second round picks that they have this year. And I'll be dropping more draft content in regards to who they could potentially be picking up. But you're taking a chance, man. You're taking a chance on that back end of the rotation, especially if you are also moving one of Isaac Okoro or Dean Wade. Because truth be told, I see no reality. I see no reality in which the Cavaliers move both Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade and let Sam Merrill walk. And then there's the Ty Jerome of it all. So you have all of these pieces towards the back end of your rotation and on the front end as well, with, or at least in regards to your bench, in regards to Ty and Sam, that you're going to have to try and figure out, okay, who is taking on these minutes. It's tough. It's a tough riddle to solve that Kobe Altman and company are going to have to try and work their way around. But I still believe that they will get this thing sorted out. They'll figure it out. And I think with the way that the CBA has structured things in regards to the second apron, those second round picks that you have, they're increasingly more and more important. Whoever you pick in this year's draft, if you do keep those picks, one of those guys, along with some of the pieces that you already have on the roster, are going to have to start turning into back into the rotation caliber pieces by no later than next season. It's got to happen. Jalen Tyson, he's got to be in the rotation either this year or the year following that if you're going to let some of these guys walk or moving up off of them. Craig Porter Jr. already mentioned, these are the types of situations you find yourself in. I would love to know what you guys think about who you would potentially move a Jarrett Allen or Darius Garland for. And we already know what's going on with Darius. He is very likely to miss the beginning of the 2025-26 season. That to me puts a big limit or hampers his market right now, or just dampens his market right now in terms of some of the teams that may or may not be interested in him. And Orlando, that was a team right there that was like, okay, before the Desmond Bane trade, that was a team that people were linking Cleveland to in regards to that point guard spot. And make no mistake, they still, to me, they're betting heavily on Anthony Black and maybe Desmond Bane to be more of a secondary creator, in Paolo to pick up even more playmaking duties. They still probably need a point guard, but they're not trading for Darius Garland. That's just not happening, especially with some of the cap concerns that they now have. So that's another team that is off the board in regards to that. I say all of this to say that he just does not appear to have a large market this offseason. And I know that we're not privy to all of the names who may or may not be interested in a player at any given point in time. But what I can say is that based on the teams that can afford to take in his salary and or could give Cleveland something that they actually need in return, it's a very, very small list of teams. Make no mistake, there are teams out there that still could use a starting caliber point guard. But on the contract that he's on, and along with the fact that Cleveland may not be interested in what they can realistically offer, there just are not a lot of names out there. New Orleans is right up there if you're trying to facilitate some type of move with Trey Murphy or Herb Jones, but I just don't see it, man. I would love to know what you guys think about it. Let me know in the comments below, but that's Darius's market right now. I just don't see a large market. Jarrett Allen, you could probably sell teams on the idea of what he brings to the table. I know it's being reported out there right now that LA is, searching for a starting caliber center, but do they really want to bring in somebody that is due to make $30 million next season? I think that they're looking at some cheaper options out there. We'll have to see. We'll have to stay tuned, but it's difficult. This is the spot that they put themselves in with some of the contracts that they've handed out. But for better or worse, this is more than likely what we're looking at from at least the top 6 to 7 players on the roster. Because right now, as presently constructed, I think you're looking at Darius, you're looking at Donovan, you're looking at DeAndre Hunter. And yes, I do believe that DeAndre Hunter should be the starting 3 next season. You're looking at Evan Mobley, you're looking at Jarrett Allen, Max Strus. Those are the only names as of right now. Those 6 players, those are the only names right now that I am completely certain about being in the rotation next year. Ty Jerome is up in the air. Sam Merrill is up in the air. Isaac and Dean are up in the air. It is all a big question mark. I think Jalen Tyson is in the mix to take on one of the roles that is likely to be vacated, but it's all in flux right now. It is all in flux right now. That I say all of this to say that it's just crazy. It's crazy to me. Let's head to the chat. Foski says they said Jalen Green will get you routed to another team. I think you kind of have to, and I think I discussed that at the top. Jalen Green, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker are making like a combined $140 something million. That's just 3 players. And Jalen Green is not like an exceptional defender. He's not a huge guard out there. It's not like he has a lot of positional versatility. We're talking about a guy who is basically just a scoring. He's a scoring guard. That's basically what he is right now. At 6'4", 178 pounds or so, he's not an elite playmaker. He's not an elite defender. He's not necessarily a sharp shooting. He's not a marksman. He's not a specialist. You're not going to keep a guard rotation of Green, Beal, and Booker together. You're going to have to move one of those pieces. And with Booker and Beal making about $53 million apiece, yeah, you're probably going to look at Green as being the type of player that you have to move on from. Tulip Play says, what kind of return would you expect for Jarrett? That's so fucking hard right now. Again, Herb Jones and Yves Missi would be the dream. I would argue that you could probably still get Herb and maybe some you if you're going to move Jarrett Allen for Herb Jones, you have to absolutely make a play for a viable backup center or backup big because you're creating another hole. Herb Jones is not a big. He can play minutes at the 4, but the benefit of having Jarrett Allen alongside Evan Mobley is that you're not forcing Evan Mobley to be the full-time 5. And I still think there are certain matchups where Mobley just probably should not be playing up against certain players. I get from an offensive spacing standpoint, like the advantages and disadvantages of what that offers you and being able to play 5 out. But there are still some caveats to that. And I think if you move Jarrett Allen, you have to be able to have a viable third big on the roster. And in this case, if you're moving Jarrett, and the return is just Herb Jones or a wing, you now are faced with basically having to bring in 2 bigs. You need somebody else out there. It's something that has to happen. So we'll see. I'm not sure what those balloons are about, but we will see. To Play says 3 shooting guard lineup with no defense is diabolical. I have to reroute Jalen. You absolutely have to. Too much money tied up in the 3. HJ17 Gaming says, I still want Trey Murphy. I would love Trey Murphy. It would likely cost you Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell type of move. They're not going to trade. You're not going to be able to acquire Trey Murphy for Jarrett Allen. It's just not going to happen. It just won't. That's my opinion anyways. Tom K says, Mac, Cavs are already great. Teams trying to keep up with them. Trade has to make them clearly better and not open a new hole. Completely agree, Tom K, if you're still watching. That's why I'm saying, like, if you're going to move Jarrett, you have to be able to address the needs that you already have on the roster. Even with the core 4 staying put, you still need a viable third big. You still need probably an additional ball handler out there. We saw how damaging that was, the lack thereof, in that series against the Indiana Pacers, where Ty Jerome can't get past the press or is struggling, and Darius Garland is clearly injured. You need an additional ball handler. It's a huge reason why I'm saying, okay, you need to go out there and bring in a Malcolm Brogdon or Alonzo Ball. But again, these are all difficult things to do because of the cap situation that the Cavaliers are in. So, yeah, if you're moving Darius, if you're moving Jarrett or another piece on the roster, you have to make sure that you are not creating new holes by whatever move that you're doing. It's a difficult dance. It truly is. Tom also says Okoro and Wade, if you can move them, fine. Yeah, I think we're all on that. And you guys know this is coming from a huge fan of both of those players, especially Isaac. I have sat here and tried to give Isaac the benefit of the doubt in every single season that he has played in the wine and gold. But there comes a point in time where you're like, okay, it's put up or shut up. And unfortunately for Isaac this season, yes, he did suffer that injury, that AC joint sprain, same one that Dean Wade did the year prior, that limited him. And you could clearly tell that it was bothering him in terms of the shooting motion out there. That did happen to Isaac, but there comes a point in time where you have to look to move on if you're not expecting a guy to make that leap or that jump. And the leap for Isaac isn't something substantial that we were expecting, like we were for Evan Mobley. The leap for Isaac was literally, okay, become a serviceable shooter in the postseason while also being a very good defender on the perimeter. And I think Isaac has one of those things down, but it's not offensively, it's just not there. Some of that might be the injury, some of that might be the way that he was being used, but at the end of the day, it's on Isaac. It always has been. Whether that be confidence issues, whether that be an inability to reliably space the floor, it has always been on Isaac Okoro. So yeah, at this point, I am open to all deals involving Isaac. If you're trying to alleviate some of the cap concerns that you have, Isaac is a logical answer. He's due to make 11 mil next season. Dean is probably more tradable, but if you're already having to talk about, oh, we're going to have to attach a draft pick or two just to unload to offload Isaac's contract, you're in a bad spot already. You truly are. HJ17 Gaming says Cavs just need to get bigger wings and stop. That is hard to do, though. Like, You look at the free agent market right now. There are some names out there, but the problem isn't the names. And this is, make no mistake, it is a pretty watered down market. It truly is. But the problem the Cavaliers face, as you're already aware of, they don't have a lot of money to work with in terms of those wings out there. If you're talking about unrestricted free agents at the small forward position, you got Joe Ingles, pretty old guy, not contributing at a playoff level. That's just not happening. Jayshawn Tate is an interesting name for all you Ohio State Buckeyes fans out there, myself included. I would be open to the idea of bringing in Jayshawn Tate, but Jayshawn has his own issues, and he's not necessarily a big guy himself. Doug McDermott, Jay Crowder, Lindy Waters III, Torrey Craig, I guess. Lamar Stevens, do you think about potentially reuniting with Lamar Stevens? He does have some size out there. He's got sort of a dog mentality in him. Would be open to that on the vet minimum, I suppose, if you can't bring in an additional option, because I do believe that in a Kenny Atkinson offense that maybe he could get something more out of Lamar Stevens that we have seen in since he was donning the wine and gold. There just are not a lot of options on the market that the Cavaliers would probably deem affordable, or i.e. would accept the veteran minimum that the Cavaliers could offer. So getting bigger wings, that's tough. You do have Chuma Okeke on the roster. You do have Naquan Tomlin, Jalen Tyson. That's basically it, man. You're relying on your in-house talent, and that's why a lot of people are pushing this whole Monty Bates thing, because he theoretically he does have the size, but he, from an on-court perspective, he has so many different things to work on that he shouldn't be anywhere near that rotation right now. It is difficult to do. It is truly difficult to do. J47 says they're saying Phoenix isn't likely to trade Jalen Green. They should. I mean, I don't know what you're saying. I haven't since the trade went through. I just hopped on here with you guys. I'm checking out Twitter as we go, but I think you should, at the very least. That's too much money. That's too much money tied up in Beal, Booker, and Green. We're talking 140 mil or so and 3 players. Miggy Cardo says the NBA is not like the NFL. You can't afford to be patient with internal growth. With the craziness every offseason, you can easily be left in the dust by being complacent. Yeah, I think that's a fair point, but complacency has its place too if there's no other moves out there to be made. A move for movement's sake is just as can be just as damning as staying put. It's a difficult thing. If there is a move out there that the Cavaliers like, they will. I don't have a doubt in my mind that Kobe Altman wouldn't do it. We've seen him do it in the past. We did it with DeAndre Hunter this season. He did it with Larry Nance and the acquisition of Lowry or Ricky Rubio, or moving off of Andre Drummond. There are definitely things that he has done in the past that you can point to that says, okay, this guy is not just completely going to stay put. He'll make a move if he sees there's an opportunity for it to be made, but moving off of these guys just to move them would probably be the worst thing that you can do. J47 says people keep saying Max is a 2 when the stats show he's better at 3. Y'all just don't like his size. Max, in terms of where he has traditionally played, at least with the Cavaliers, it's been mostly the 3. Does that mean he shouldn't or he couldn't function as more of a 2 guard? Yeah, I mean, look, in his first season in Cleveland, we're going to let you guys know, going to clue you in on something if you're not already aware. Max played 30% of his minutes at the 3 in his first season in Cleveland. He was in the 84th percentile in terms of point differential. He played 59% of his minutes at the 2. This past season, we know Max, he wasn't healthy for the entirety of it. He played 51% of his minutes at the 3 and 48% at the 2. So more of a kind of even split this year in terms of where he lined up at. Max, now that you have DeAndre, and if you do factor Jalen Tyson into the rotation at sub capacity, I think you can afford Max the opportunity to play more at the 2. And I think that from a positional standpoint, while he can play at the three and be effective at the three, I think that he is probably better suited to spend more of his minutes at the two, especially from a defensive standpoint. I don't think Max is a bad defender. What I do think is the Cavaliers ask a lot of Max, considering his size, and he has held up better than I thought he would. But I think he is more two than three. Doesn't mean he can't function as a three in lineups because he's done that since he got to Cleveland. But I think in a perfect world, you allow DeAndre to be that starting three. We traded. That's the fucking reason why we traded for him. So use him that way. that's just what I'm saying. HJ17 Gaming says, by the way, Cavs have a higher winning percentage with Dean starting at three rather than Strus. I like Dean Wade. I do think that there is a validity in holding on to Dean for at least one more year if you cannot bring in a viable third big and you end up moving Isaac Okoro. But I also see that there is a lot of validity in moving off of Dean Wade as well. I think the problem with Dean is that the Cavaliers, it's twofold. Dean, he has issues himself. Lack of confidence at times to pull the trigger, and he's been an inefficient shooter come the postseason. And his perimeter shot has gone up and down throughout the duration of the last couple of seasons. The Cavaliers, they have forced him into a box where they are asking him to play a lot of minutes as they pseudo big, this third big off the bench or the fourth big after the acquisition of DeAndre Hunter. And it is not something that they should be doing next season. If Dean Wade is I do not want to see Dean Wade functioning as their third big next year. I just do not want to see that shit. I'm tired of it. It does not work long term. There are lineups where you can go small and say, okay, Dean, play the four, play the five. But I don't think we need to rely on that, especially come the playoffs. Dean is still a valuable defender. That has been the case since he began to be a rotational player. But I think if you're relying on him to be the backup big, you have problems. So that is why I'm heavy on the idea that the Cavaliers have to do everything in their power to address that spot. They have to get a viable third big, and it cannot be Dean Wade. Cannot happen. Little Man OG says, Cavs about to sit on their ass and get passed up while everyone else makes moves. Watch what happens next. I mean, there are certain things that they can do. There are certain things that they can't do from a second increment restriction. If you want them to make a move just to make a move, you're probably going to be disappointed because they're not going to get the value that a lot of people want, especially with Darius hurt. And Jarrett doesn't have a large market right now. So you're essentially looking at moves along the margins. That's why we're talking about the Isaac Okoros and Dean Wades of the world being moved, or God forbid, Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome type signing trades, which also have hard limits on those too. They hard cap the Cavs. Very, very difficult thing to foreshadow. J47 says, Lil Man, they said the same last year and we got better. I think the Cavaliers will take a step forward in 2025-26, despite what a lot of people will say. I think Lil Man is probably above, included in that group, but I don't see them as, proverbial second round exits that a lot of people seem to think that they will be. I just don't think that's the case. I think that the law of averages will eventually pan out in regards to some of these injuries. I do not think Darius Garland, if he stays on the roster, will be injured entering the 2025-26 postseason. I do not think that you're going to experience a bevy of injuries, like very impactful injuries in the playoffs once they start. Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter. I do not think some of these things that occurred this year and have occurred in years past are going to continue. Injuries are always something that can happen, but I do not think that it's already set in stone. If you think Darius or Jarrett or anybody else on the roster is injury prone, okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not set in stone that they're going to get injured. It's a possibility. Doesn't mean it's going to happen every single year. So I think by virtue of that, the Cavaliers, if they stay healthy next season, which is asking a lot, admittedly, but if they stay healthy next season, I still think that they can be better, especially if they shore up some of these flaws that they have. If they can get a viable third big, and if they can get an additional ball handler, if they can get some size at the wing on the back end, I think that they can be better next year. I don't think anything is set in stone. And I understand that a lot of people still believe, regardless if they stay healthy or not, that you can't win a title with two small two small guards in your backcourt. I understand the validity in that. I understand what history has told us. But considering that today, as of recording this is game 7 that we're about to watch tonight between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. After today, the NBA will have crowned a different champion or a new champion for the 8th straight year. We have had no repeat champions in the last 8 years. If that doesn't tell you that parity is at the highest that it's been in a very long time, maybe ever, I don't know what will. And it certainly it tells you that anything can happen. I don't give a fuck if you you come in the chat right now and tell me, oh, I picked the Indiana Pacers to win it all this year, or I picked, oh, you probably did. Now, some people picking OKC was a little more feasible than picking Indiana, obviously. But if you came to this season thinking that Indiana would be representing representing the East in the finals, let alone having a chance to win a game 7, I would call bullshit on that, frankly. So this just tells you anything can happen. Never write off any team. It is as simple as that. So for me, you need some things to happen. You need Mobley to be more vocal. You need him to get more touches. You need Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and Kenny Atkins to do everything in their power to make sure that they are pushing Evan Mobley to be the best that he can be. You need health. You need Darius, Jarrett, Don, Evan, anybody else on the roster to stay healthy. You need your bench players to show up and contribute. You need a third big that can be can be plug and play come the postseason. You need more signs out on their wings, out there on the wings off the bench. But these are not things that I think are impossible. They can be done. The question is, how do you go about doing them? Who do you bring in? If the question is about toughness, that's a little bit more difficult. If you're questioning Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, anybody else, whatever will have you, because I don't think anybody truly considers Donovan Mitchell to be a guy that doesn't exude toughness. If you're questioning that element, we're going to find that out this year. We truly are. I don't think you can teach toughness. I think it's either inherently there or it's not. And the evidence says that, yeah, these guys probably lean closer to maybe it not being there, but I'm not going to just rule it out. I'm not going to rule out Jarrett Allen, Darius, and others to take a step forward from a mental toughness standpoint and be more locked in, because I just don't think you should ever write these things off as being never going to happen. I just don't think that is a good way to approach things as a fan, and that's certainly not the kind of guy that I am. HJ17 Gaming says Mobley is the ceiling. We won't know how good the Cavs can be until he hits his prime. I think that there's definitely validity to that. I think a lot of people believe in order for the Cavaliers to win a championship, Evan Mobley has to be, if not 1A or 1B to Donovan Mitchell's 1A, if not fully being the best player on the roster. He's already well on his way to being that. Like Don, if you look in a lot of different places, a lot of people rank Donovan Mitchell consistently in the top 10. Like I've seen him ranked as high as 8th. Evan Mobley, I think the highest that I saw him being ranked this season, whether that be Ringer or CBS or ESPN or Yahoo, the highest that I think I've seen Evan Mobley be is 14th. Evan Mobley is still quite young. Evan Mobley just won Defensive Player of the Year. He is still learning some things offensively. He became a better floor spacer this year, more confident shooter, more confident ball handler. The sky is truly the limit for Evan Mobley. So I think there is some validity to thinking that Evan Mobley could be like at the end of the 2025-26 season. I think that Evan Mobley very well has a case to be the Cavaliers' best player, and that is including Donovan Mitchell. Do I think that is set in stone to happen? No, because Evan has to be more vocal. Evan has to be more confident, even more confident than he was this year when getting the ball. But he has to call for the ball now. He has to demand those touches now. He has to make sure that he is getting more involved, especially late in game and late in game stretches. I say all that to say that I do believe that the Cavaliers go as Evan goes as the future goes on. But with 2025, 26 being so important in the grand scheme of the makeup of this team and how these contracts are structured, we're asking Evan to do that like now, like make that leap now. You don't have more time than if you're thinking that the window is next year open. And because make no mistake, with Boston suffering the injury that they did, with Jason Tatum being down presumably all of next year, and with some of the other moves in the East that have already been made and in the West, it is anybody's championship. It truly is. I'm going to go on record saying this right now. I don't think we're going to see a repeat champion next year. I do not think OKC or Indiana wins the title next year. I think we see completely different team win it all. I think that will be the 9th straight year. That's just me. That's just my thoughts and feelings on the matter. But that's just the space that I am in right now. I still believe that the Cavaliers, as currently constructed, have an opportunity to be even better than they were this year. I still believe that the Cavaliers, if there's a move out there to be made, if it does include Jarrett or Darius or, God forbid, Donovan or Evan or anybody on the roster, I think they'll make it. The question is, are those moves really out there? I think a lot of people question Kobe Altman's willingness to make the move, make the big moves. But I don't have a lot of concern in that. I think he's already shown us that if it's there, he'll make it. But if it's not, there's no reason to force it. And I think a lot of people fall in the camp of they want him to make a move just to make a move. So I'm going to wrap this up in a bow by saying this. I think it's both possible to go all in I think it's possible to go all in with this core and make some moves along the margins. I also think it's very possible for them to go all in by making a move and pivoting off of Darius and Jarrett or anybody else. Anything is on the table right now. If I was a betting man, I would say that they're probably going to stay put with the core and they make moves along the margins. But I'm also in a world where we have seen Luka Doncic being moved in a heartbeat over what felt like the craziest move of the season, craziest move that we have seen in years. Anything is possible. We just saw KD being moved. And I know that was obviously more expected because he wanted to be moved, but everything should be on the table, especially at this point in the offseason. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know how you guys feel about the direction that the Cavaliers appear to be heading in, or the fact that maybe they don't have a set in stone direction right now. Let me know how you feel in the comments below. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send any screenshots of the review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you want to support the show in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. The link will be in the description. You get access to videos as soon as they are edited, right? Because sometimes things do not hit YouTube at the same time that they hit Patreon. I've been trying to do that a little bit more. You get exclusive access to the Discord chat. And I think I'm going to start opening things up in regards to hosting at least one episode with people at points in time. So if any of that interests you, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. Go Cavs.